Um, Stacy called and asked us if we'd come say what you meant in our life, and of course, we're grateful and honored to do so. Um, you've been a part of our life both as a pastor and as a friend. We first met Dennis about 9 years ago when Marty asked Pam and I to facilitate something called Next Steps. Next Steps was an effort initiated by Trinity's leadership, designed to take an inward look at themselves so that they could better the church. As part of that effort, we met with a cross-section of the Trinity folks every other week for over a year. When we began this effort, we were still active members of our current parish, which was not Trinity. And so we didn't think of you as our pastor. We were content where we were, and so we weren't looking to change churches. After a few meetings, that started to change. And so in order to help the process, Pam and I decided to come to a few Sunday services to see really what Trinity was about. So we came, and as is often the case, what we thought started out as something that we would be helping the church was really God leading us to a new spiritual journey here at Trinity. Needless to say, we now think of you as our pastor.
I remember thinking after several sessions that the group of people that were asked to participate in the strategic planning for Trinity was an incredible group of bright and humble and authentic people that had a passion for having Christ in their lives and in the lives of the members of Trinity. They took their task so seriously and genuinely wanted to make Trinity better. What was most striking was how comfortable everyone was to speak truth and constructively criticize things about Trinity in Dennis's presence. Tom and I talked at great length about what a testament to Dennis's character and leadership that he created such a safe space for people to talk honestly. There was no pride, there was no judgment, no ill will seen, just everyone wanting the best outcome for the people in Church of Trinity. Dennis exhibited incredible grace and humility, empathy, compassion, and responsibility during this process. It was truly remarkable and left a lasting impression on both Tom and me as to what it truly means to be a pastor and a leader. We had never before experienced this type of spiritual leadership. I remember thinking that these people really walk the walk, they don't just talk the talk, and it made us very curious to learn more about Trinity.
So when we first came to Trinity, we immediately liked the obvious laid-back feeling of the church. We liked the music, and we, you know where we sat, and we sat there every week. And you started to preach, and I don't think I blinked for 35 minutes. You really have a gift to teach Christ's message through your sermons, and Trinity was really the first place that Pam and I had been where we were introduced to a church that focused on each and every one of us having our own individual relationship with Christ. So to prove you were not a total failure as a pastor, we would like to briefly share the impact a few of your sermons have had on us.
I'm hearing Dennis preach the gospel for me was very impactful. You taught it in a way in which we had never heard it before. Personally, you made me realize in my heart and not just my head that I can't earn my way to heaven and that I'll never be good enough to deserve eternal life, and that's okay. More importantly, I learned and grew to feel that God loved me just the way I am and where I am. And that was a very freeing feeling for me, as we had been in a church before with a lot of rules, and I never thought I was good enough to please God, but was always striving to please God. As a 1 on the Enneagram, for those of you who know what that means, or if you don't, it means I am a perfectionist. And so I lived with a lot of guilt and frustration most of the time. So it was just incredibly freeing to hear Dennis preach the gospel. I also learned through Trinity that God cared way more about my heart than what was in my head. And the permission to not be perfect has been life-changing for me. So thank you.
So one of the first series you spoke on when we started coming to church here was limbo, which is the time between God's promise and the fulfillment of that promise. See, it stuck. You taught me how God uses limbo to grow us, that in much of our life we'll be experiencing limbo in one aspect or another. The realization has allowed me, who feels like I'm constantly in limbo, to stay patient and try and relax a little, albeit it's not very easy. And to move at God's pace, which does not come easy for me. More than that, based on your teaching, I am learning to recognize limbo for what it is and to look for God's lesson in my limbo. And it sure helps soften the limbo. Thank you for that.
Another way that you have impacted us personally was in one of your sermons, you talked about erring on the side of being generous. And that was a personal challenge that we felt like we needed to hear, and we've really tried to live that lesson out in our lives going forward. And we've also shared this lesson with our adult children, and what's been really great is that we have now seen them embrace this concept as well. So thank you for that.
So we're giving you a snapshot of the wisdom that you passed on to us as our pastor. But I would be remiss not to let you know that I enjoyed our weekly lunches immensely. I enjoyed the relaxed atmosphere that you create whenever you meet with somebody and catching up on each other's lives and discussing current events. I enjoyed learning from your wisdom and the friendship that went along with it. You really have a gift for living in the moment, which is something I've tried, and you model it well, and it's something I've tried to learn from. Our weekly lunches are really one of the things I miss the most about our move to Houston. I know how Pam and I feel about the impact you've had on our lives, and I think one of the gifts that you give to the membership at Trinity is that many of the other members at your church feel the exact same way as we do.
So Dennis, we love you, and we're so grateful for you personally, and we wish you and Susan much joy and fulfillment in your retirement. And our prayer for you is that you know the incredible effect that you've had on the people here, as well as get a glimpse of the ripple effect that you've had around the world. So thank you.
So thank you.